this Splashdown session is focusing on the sponge cities and storm management. So today we are going to have Francesca Framba from the municipality, from the metropolitan area of Milan, and Marie Langsholt, I hope I pronounce it well, from Oslo Kommune. So Maria is going to focus mainly on the Oslo stormwater management guidelines and how the city guidelines for managing stormwater are going to be integrated or guiding the new developments in the city, aiming to mitigate flooding risks, but also to enhance water quality. So the Kommune of Oslo is also setting a benchmark for resilient and environmental conscious city. So thanks a lot, Maria, for being here. And then Francesca will give us an overview of the Sponge City strategy and how this is actually implemented in the metropolitan area of Milan. Through actually 92 interventions and 32 within 32 municipalities that belong in the metropolitan area. So quite impressive to hear also what are the lessons learned from all these projects implementing water management and overall improving water quality. So thanks a lot also, Francesca, for being here today. I'll give the word to Maria. So Maria, we can start with you. So feel free to share your screen when you're ready.
Okay, then I will. Just finding the right screen here. Let's see. Okay, I'll just share the whole screen and then wait. So do you see the presentation in presentation mode now?
Yes, great.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'll say a little bit about the stormwater management in Oslo and the new guidelines we have for the stormwater management. And then first, I just want to thank some colleagues of mine in the planning and building agency for giving me some slides to this presentation. So it's a cooperation with them that I'm doing this presentation today, because they are the main. They own this stormwater manual in a way, but we have co-developed the whole thing. So yeah, just a little bit about Oslo. We are a city by the fjord, in the corner of the Oslo fjord, as you can see on the map down there. And our city, or the municipality in total, is actually mostly forest, but then with a development zone closer to the water. So within the forest, of course, not much development is happening, and things are okay. But then in the development zone, we have an increased densification to avoid expanding the city into the forest area. So the development zone is approximately 150 square kilometers. And right now, I think we are about to reach 700,000 inhabitants. So a big city in Norwegian scale, but a medium city in European scale. And our challenges are mainly that, yeah, so our city is down by the ocean, and then we have a lot of smaller and bigger streams running through the building zone, both from the forest areas, but also, of course, picking up a lot of water throughout their course through the city. And over the years, a lot of the green areas were built down, densified with housing and infrastructure. And And then we have a loss of permeable surfaces and also biodiversity and also carbon storage. So we try to see the whole, both the blue and the green together, and see both the challenges in relation to each other, but also the solutions. And then now in the recent years, we've seen an increasing peak runoff in the surface water. So both the speed and volume is increasing and causing damage from erosion and washout and flooding. And then, of course, we also have an increasing amount of pollution being washed out, both from the roads, but also from different kinds of properties and industrial areas. And also from a combined sewer overflow, of course. So to act on these challenges, there were several strategies implemented or politically, what do you say? Yeah, implemented, and then we also got an action plan for stormwater management. And the goals of these strategies are to face the changing climate. So, of course, with the changing climate, we also get an increased chance of a cloudburst and more intense cloudbursts than we had before. And so we want to meet this challenge and reduce the consequences for people, buildings, property, and infrastructure. And then a second priority is to protect the environment and ensure the water quality in both the rivers and the fjords. And then lastly, to use the stormwater as a resource in the urban environment. So the strategy points out a direction where we are moving from a traditionally closed system for urban drainage to a more open and nature-based, surface-based system. We have a long way to go, but that's sort of the goal. So a part of this strategy or this action plan was to make a new stormwater guidebook with new requirements and guidance for how we want the stormwater to be managed in the city. And we had a broad cooperation with all the different agencies of the municipality to make this guidebook, and it was published last September. So the guidebook includes, it's quite large and has a lot of information. So a detailed framework for the stormwater management. So both mentioning the existing laws that you have to know, but also the specific guidelines we have for Oslo. And then it also defines the different parameters that affect both the runoff, but also the water quality of the city, and how we have to work with these parameters to reach our goals. And then it defines the dimensioning criteria, so how much water you actually have to manage on your own property. And I'll come back to that in a minute. And then there are also a lot of recommendations for what kind of solutions we want, how they should be implemented, and some examples of how to do this. So an important part of our approach to stormwater is the three-step strategy. It's quite widely used in Norway and also in Oslo. And we worked a lot on what kind of dimensioning criteria we should have for these three different steps. So the biggest change, because we used this strategy also before the new guideline was implemented, but in the new guidelines, we shifted the focus a little bit, because before the step 2, which is delay and retain, was sort of the main focus of the stormwater management. But now we try to focus more on the everyday rain, so the low intensity rainfall, and how we can use that both as a resource to water the vegetation and to help implement or to push the implementation of more blue-green areas in the city. And then also to look at the step 3, which is the cloudburst rain. So the rains that don't come very often, but have big consequences when they come. So this is a bit technical, but for the low intensity rainfall, we require that 10 millimeters of rain, regardless of the length of the rain period, should be treated with nature-based solutions on site. So that's like a minimum recommendation. And then for the more heavy rain, the 5-year return period plus a climate surcharge, which in Norway is 40%, also have to be delayed and retained on site, and preferably nature-based solutions. But where it's impossible with nature-based, it's also allowed to have more gray traditional solutions. And then for the cloudburst, we have a 100-year return period as the dimensioning criteria, plus the climate surcharge. And so a little bit about the different steps. I'm not, or I can follow the time here just to make sure. Do I have 5 minutes left or more or less?
Yes,
okay.
You can have 5 minutes.
Okay, so I'll go quickly through this. Yeah, so with the step 1, as I said, we have a bigger focus on this step now because we see that it's the biggest or the most important driver for the green infrastructure in the city, and also then helping with contributing to biodiversity and groundwater recharge. And also actually the water quality. So for the step 1, it's the first flush, as we call it. So that's where the most of the pollution will be. So if we manage to treat the first flush, then we manage to take off most of the pollution of the stormwater. So yeah, that's the main points of this this step. And we also have a blue-green factor, which all developments have to fulfill. You sort of put all the different measures you have on your property into this spreadsheet, and then you get a score, and the score has to be within the decided limits. I think Berlin has something similar, and also several Swedish cities. And then there's the step 2, as I said, it's the dimensioning criteria is the climate-adjusted 5-year rain event. Yeah, I will not talk so much about this because time is running. But the main purpose of this step is to reduce the damage and improve the land use, but also to reduce the overflow from the wastewater system. We have a lot of, I think, about 50 or 60% combined sewer in Oslo. And then this is the step 3, which is to secure the flood waste through the city to reduce the risks of damage from the bigger stormwater events. And this is maybe the biggest challenge because it has to be done on a city scale. So it's not only each property that has to work on this 100-year climate event. It has to be a citywide measures. So we are working on it, but it's obviously going to take some time before we get there. But on the way to having these citywide implementations, we now have some hydraulic modeling of the surface runoff for the whole built-up zone, so that we can see where the water today would run through the city, and then see where we should prioritize measures. And then just a little bit about the urban streets in the end, because that's what our pilot in MULTISOURCE is mostly about. So this 3-step approach is also applied in the streets, or that the streets are being rebuilt in the city. And we see that space is always a challenge, of course. There are a lot of functions that has to fit in these streets, and it's difficult to fit them all. So yeah, we have a focus on multi-use solutions, but still we see that that's a big challenge. But then we try to focus on the step one, so not dimensioning for the bigger events, but for the small events, to use the water to water the greenery that we already have in the streets, so the city trees, but also the rain gardens. We managed to fit some places. Yeah, and we see that it's very important to consider the maintenance when designing the solutions so that they will last for a long time. A lot of solutions are built in a way that make them difficult to maintain, and then their function will not be very good within a few years. Yeah, and we also see that the positioning of the solutions is very important. I mean, the positioning within the street area so that you get the water to actually run into the measures. Yeah, and then just to conclude the whole thing, which is also related to multi-source with the co-benefits of the nature-based solutions, we see that the blue-green streets, when it's done well, they are good for the people in the city, and that fits very well with all of our strategies when it comes to planning the city streets, because all the political goals are related around making it easier and better for pedestrians and cyclists to move around in the city, and make it a bit more difficult for the cars to go around. So using blue-green solutions takes away space from the cars, but it gives some quality to the spaces we have for our soft street users, as we call them. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks a lot, Maria, for the presentation. I suggest that we move with the case of the metropolitan area of Milan and Francesca, and then we can use the remaining of the time for questions from any of you. So please keep some notes in case you want to ask anything to Maria. And Francesca, please feel free to share your screen.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to share the screen also. And that's in presentation mode, maybe. Okay. You're seeing it correctly? Yes?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Perfect. So thank you, everyone. And so I'm Francesca Framba, and I work for the Metropolitan City of Milan and in the environment area. I would like to introduce you to our strategy, territorial strategy called Metropolitan Sponge City. But first, I wanted to give some context. So the Metropolitan City of Milan is a second level entity that it's between the region and municipalities that are 133. And its main function, it's planning function, both strategic and territorial, spatial. And it's really densely inhabited. And so that brings many challenges, as you can see in the next slides. So what we did as a service, as an entity, it's study, basically. So since 2016, we embarked in a major study of our territory from a climate point of view, to understand the conformation as well as the distribution of the problems from the climatic point of view. We started for this correlation that you can see here between the rising of the temperature in the last 50 years, basically, with the increase of the land consumption. As you can see from these images, the land consumption growth really high. And so that's, of course, for water mainly, and for heat brings a lot of problems. So we understood that the two main issues we had were about the thermal anomalies and the potential stormwater runoff. And with this scenario, that it's basically distributed like this. So the runoff and also the temperatures and the heat island, as you can see from the previous image, are really related to the consumption of land. And in light of this, we developed a territorial long-term strategy that it's inside the urban metropolitan agenda. That it's a framework for us to really envision what the evolution we want to see in our territory. However, we felt that it was essential that this vision was also translated into the authorities' own regulatory instrument, such as the strategical plan, the territorial plan, and the building construction plan, that are later being translated in the municipality, single municipality plans. So in each founding document of the metropolitan city, we put some contamination, we can say, of sustainability. And I would really like to emphasize this step, because it is what we believe that will enable a true transformation of our area. So the Metropolitan Urban Agenda has trajectories that really focus on diverse topics. The one that involves adaptation to climate change is the resilient trajectory, so this one, and has the objective of limiting the impact of climatic events. And it's one of the action, the Metropolitan Sponge City. So the idea behind the Sponge City strategy is to have a natural urban regeneration, having a more resilient territory to climate change events, an implementation of ecosystem services, but also social inclusion and new models of business from this new type of interventions. Where it came from, the first real chance to bring really the strategy in action was the Next Generation EU fundings that were took by Italy, the government, and from one of the 5 missions that our country selected, the one inclusion and cohesion, it's the one we used for this first round of implementation. Because as I said, right now we are developing 90 interventions, all in public areas, in 32 municipalities. And what we are doing, basically, it's intervention about infiltration and retention and the impermeabilization and stuff like this, as you can see from this few examples. I think that it's interesting to understand that this opportunity gave us a legacy that it's in terms of governance. Why? Because basically there is a new model that was established to manage all this project, that it has to conclude in mid-2026. So we have a short period of time to implement all of this. And so basically the ministry that is holding the funds, and it's going to be responsible also for the monitoring. The beneficiary of the fundings, that it's Metropolitan City of Milan, it's the responsible for the results of the project, and integrated water system utility, service utility, has to implement really the work, and so did the design and engineering part. And finally, the municipalities that are going to be the owners of this intervention. And so the legacy, the strongest legacy, is the relationship, new kind of relationship that was established between the Metropolitan City and the water utility, because we signed a collaboration agreement to do this, and we hope it's going to be, it's going to go further than the project itself. So these are some renderings of the intervention that are being implemented right now. And as you can see, it's parking lots, it's squares, like this one on the left, and also streets, because it's where we could really intervene without having to take spaces from the private, from the citizens or businesses. And this is an image of where the intervention are geolocalized throughout all the metropolitan city. So as you can see, the larger number is in the north, because it's the area where the problems are higher and more frequent. And but yeah, it's as you can imagine, just the first step, a massive first step in this strategy. Now I wanted to tell you about the expected impacts, because as I said, like these 90 interventions are going to be finished by mid-2026. So we don't really know what it's going to happen, but it's what we envision. The first impact is the replicability of this intervention. So the standardization of the problems that we are going to manage, the technology, but also business models. And it's something we are doing also with the contribution of the MULTISOURCE project, that it's been really interesting to see what the partners can bring to this strategy. And the second impact, it's I would say more of mitigation kind of impact, because we are going to have all these effects that we already calculated. So as you can see, 2,000 of new trees be planted, 32,000 new shrubs, 354,000 cubic meters of water that will be diverted from the sewage system per year. and 125,000 kilowatt hours per year, of course, that will be saved. And finally, 300,000 square meters that will be regenerated. This is an example of an intervention that it's been designed where we had these two main issues. So a heat island of more than 2 degrees and a runoff that had 98% of percentage, so really, really high. And this is going, this is how it is going to be. The third impact, it's about what we call the territorial education. And so our goal is to create awareness to the citizenry of the phenomena, but also the solution we selected, why and how they works. And so this is something that it's starting from September, this September. But also we are training the people that are going to manage this intervention after the end of the implementations. So the municipal maintainers and also local administrator. But also we envision a new fruition of the green spaces that are created by this infrastructure, such as this example, because as you can see from the right, that it's the project, and this is the first picture of the works. A street that was completely just cemented. There is going to be trees and also benches for people to enjoy, basically. So yeah, that's it. Of course, there would be so many other things to say because project of this dimension, it's really complex and we had issues. The time is really short, but things are going pretty well. And we think that this challenge that we have given ourselves, basically, it's a great opportunity to see transformation that it's widespread and that it's never been done, at least in Italy. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Francesca, also for providing an overview and all the work that you are doing, which is indeed quite a challenge. Before, I mean, I have some questions like going through your presentation, but first I would like to open the floor to everyone who is attending the webinar today. If they have any questions either to Maria or to Francesca, so feel free to raise your hand and ask the questions. Yes, Sophie.
Can you hear me this time?
We can, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you for your presentations, Francesca and Maria. I just wanted to know exactly how it works so you're implementing NBS. And so of course you said it demands some water for irrigation. So I wondered how it works, Mary, for the NBS that you implement for heavy rain or cloudburst rain events. And Francesca, for you, it would be, so you said you're diverting the sewer network. And so does it need like a lot of, I don't know, civil engineering, additional treatments to consider for, well, yeah, for proper maintenance of the, of the NBS? Thank you.
So should I start? So you wondered about the dimensioning or the irrigation of the systems when they're not filled by the cloud bursts. As I understand.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons actually why we went down on the dimensioning criteria for retention, because we saw that a lot of rain gardens were built too large, so that they ended up drying out. So yeah, NBS made too big can also be not very functional. Like you will end up watering them a lot throughout the dry season. So we went down slightly under criteria, and also tried to in the more guideline part of the book. So it's not a requirement, but a guideline that it's recommended to have the plants or the plants that need more water only in the bottom, and then you can have grass or whatever on the surrounding area, something that doesn't need so much moist the whole time, because they will not be underwater the whole time. And so in the streets, we also try to choose plants that can resist both drought and wet conditions. If that answered your question. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yes.
the 100-year event is not dimensioning criteria for nature-based solutions. That's only for avoiding damage. So it's only like the floodways. It's more about positioning of buildings and infrastructure to avoid the damage from the 100-year event.
Okay, so as you said, it was diverting, but NBS cannot be considered for cloudburst.
Yeah, or it can be, you have to see it related, or NBS also have to be seen within the cloudburst events in a way. Like for instance, we have a lot of reopening of streams, and then the dimensioning of the normal stream is not that big, but then the area that will be covered in water during a flooding event or a cloudburst should be, I mean, you have to take that into account, but we don't dimension the main water course for the 100-year event.
Okay, thank you.
So if I recall right, the question, well, like I'm not a technician, so I could be not like the most accurate, but the intervention are most of them a disconnection of the stormwater from the sewage system, and so it's treated locally. We didn't have a perspective on water quality when we did this projects. We are implementing it now, but basically because in the region, the regulation, it says that if the water, it's raining down some kind of surfaces that are polluted, the water has to be treated. But if they're not, they are considered basically as here we say like a white water, so they don't have to be treated for pollutants, but they just have to be managed in terms of hydrogeological issues. From a civilian engineer point of view, I maybe can't really answer, but in the next splashdown we are going to do, that it's in June, and it's not going to be me talking, and we are focusing more on the technical aspects of the project, and so
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sophie. Any other questions from someone else that you might have for Mari or Francesca? Or otherwise, I would go on with my questions. So like Mari, you were also mentioning during the presentation that mainly the scale of these interventions is like at the building or a very small scale, the implementation of such solutions. So I also understand that it's quite difficult to upscale such solutions in citywide scale, or let alone, for example, for metropolitan in the metropolitan regional area. So then I was thinking, since you already have built these guidelines, have you thought of potential strategies, or who do you believe that they should come together in order at least to align and accelerate the adoption of blue-green infrastructure in the city? So it's not like only on the block level, but how you can make sure that this is adopted and eventually results in a citywide application of the guidelines.
Yeah, so right now the guidelines are mainly working for the new developments. So yeah, and either redevelopments of existing built-up area or a new built-up area. But for the existing city, of course, that's a very big challenge. Like, what do we do? Because we cannot just go around and or we have some law changes now that actually opens up the possibility to tell people to implement blue-green solutions to reduce the runoff if they have a lot of impermeable surfaces, for instance. But yeah, but I don't think we're going to start doing that, because that would require a lot of work to go around asking people to implement solutions. So I think one thing is to work with communication, so communicating with the property owners, and whenever anyone is redesigning their garden or outdoor spaces, maybe they will take stormwater into consideration and implement solutions themselves. And then we don't have any projects like you have in the metropolitan region of Milan, where the only focus is large-scale interventions for stormwater treatment. So all the projects we do in the Agency for Urban Environment is related to other projects. So for instance, if a park is being rebuilt, we also try to implement some stormwater solutions in those parks, but we don't start any projects with the purpose of retaining water, for instance. But I think we might start seeing those kind of projects in the future when the politicians see the consequences of the cloudburst. I think we will see more willingness to start projects with the sole purpose of reducing the flooding risks. So we started this strategic, like the planning part, as I showed with the hydraulic modeling we have been doing. So we have started the planning of where we should make these interventions, but we haven't started actually doing the large scale interventions yet. If
Great,
that answers the question.
I think you mentioned quite some important components in your answer, like talking to other departments, which I think sometimes it's quite a challenge for many local and regional authorities to do so, or try to integrate guidelines and regulations that don't necessarily the project don't have that goal, but it's great that they are taken into consideration while designing and implementing some such projects. So I think like one step at a time to achieve citywide or regional scale impacts. Thanks a lot, Maria. And also, Francesca, you were mentioning actually something very interesting in your presentation, that you are trying now to integrate some regulations for stormwater and the goals, let's say, of this project into the local plans. So maybe you can tell us a bit like your experience on like accepting these changes, or like successful stories of how to integrate such solutions, which is also like a big part of the multi-source project, right? We develop these solutions, but then how do you actually integrate them into plans to ensure that they are going to be implemented, or at least they are there trying to get funding to be implemented?
Well, it's a big question. So just some information that maybe are important to explain. Basically, at a regional level, we have this regulation that for new construction, reconstruction, and stuff like that, so new use of soil, they have to restore the balance because to prevent this kind of problem. But at Oslo, basically it's for the future. It's for when projects are being developed. So you say, okay, you can do that, but you have to do it this way, considering this balance between the hydrological necessities and the land consuming projects. And so that's one. And what we did, it's taking another point of view and say, no, we're going to also try to take off impermeable oh my God, it's really tough to say. Okay, so to have more ground, free ground, and that was new, and it's something that it's originated by the political willingness, for sure, but also because as you saw, we did many studies to say it's important. Right now we have so many events that especially in the municipality of Milan, that's really dense of infrastructure. It's being tough, the damage. So there is a necessity now for the single municipalities. What we have, the challenge we have, it's that the Metropolitan plan, it's not mandatory for them, so they have to comply, but we don't have any way to demand it, So yeah, it's not easy, but the instrument we found is saying, okay, we have this money, we have this opportunity, the problem is there, so like come and join us where the problem is allocated, based on studies, of course, like on science, and the response is been great, because of course money, it's a problem, and for that, multi-source, it's going to be really interesting for us, also for the business part, because if you have numbers, you can go to the private sector and also to municipalities and to the water utility and say, okay, this is what we need. And so, yeah, it's really complex, you know, but what we experience and is that you need to do everything you can about the regulation and implement new strategies, but at the same time, you have to find opportunity. Yeah, I hope it's.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it was pretty clear that, I mean, yeah, you cannot force them to implement, but providing them also the enablers that can be a project, for example, they can also implement projects that are needed in their areas, and they can also feel the ownership of using this project as good practices to implement more and replicate them in the in other areas within their municipality. So definitely, I think it's a combination of database decision making, but also providing opportunities. Absolutely. Thanks. Thanks to both of you. We have, I think, 3 minutes left. I don't know if there are any remaining questions from any of you. All right. So then I would like to thanks a lot, Maria and Francesca, for making the time and these interesting presentations on the work that you are doing in the cities or metropolitan areas. So the next session on the splashdown would be a bit more technical oriented. So we're going to focus on the total nitrogen removal with nature-based solutions, and there we will have Mireille Martins from Rikland and Otto Stein from Montana University. So we will see you on the 7th of May again. So once again, thanks a lot. And we will share with all of you also the recording. So we can you can rewatch it if needed, or you can refer to parts of the session. All right, so thank you very much, and have a nice